when we learn languages, we focus on the grammar, we learn the vocabulary, and in case of Japanese, all the different kanji. But what if I tell you that language learning is more than just learning to speak, write, or read? Almost like creating your own in-game character. For me, it's also about expressing yourself, your thoughts, and therefore building a character. Let me show you what I mean in a few examples in this video. Sometimes we have similarities. Let me give you an example. For example, the word for thank you in Japanese is arigatou gozaimasu. It's the first word for thank you will learn when learning Japanese. It's a normal, polite way to say thank you. But when you're with your friends, you can say arigato. Depending on the formality of your situation, you use a different word, right? Or when you're in a business context, you can say makoto ni arigatou gozaimasu. It's really formal way to say arigato. And when your friend helped you, for example, with a homework for your university or your school, you can say tasukatta. So this just means you saved me. And it also has a meaning of thank you, right? There are many ways in your life to say thank you. Of course, you have different formality situations to say one word, like arigato, arigatou gozaimasu, makoto ni arigatou gozaimasu. But also, depending on your character, you can choose which way you use to thank someone. So for me, it's just choose your style. That's what I want to tell you with this video. For example, in-game characters. When you create your character, before starting a game, you can choose the hair color, you can choose the eye color, you can choose the voice, you can put it how you want it to be. And let me give you another example. So for example, when greeting someone, you can just say konnichiwa, or you can say like yo, like a more cool way of saying hey. And you can say something like yahoo, and really, how to say, manly way of saying like hey, or you can say os. And you see there are many ways to say the same meaning. For example, I experienced that yahoo is more used by like woman and yo is more used by man. Or for example, os is maybe not used by woman that much. But in this way, you can still pick your character. You can say, okay, I want to have a more like chill, relaxed slang when talking Japanese. So just say yo. Or you can say, okay, I'm more like a distance person, a polite person. So you can just say konnichiwa. So that is what I mean by choosing your character. You choose a personality. And many people that speak two different languages will maybe understand what I want to say here. Because when I speak German or when I speak English, of course I still have the same opinions. I'm still myself, but I'm kind of a different person. I kind of have a different way of saying the similar things. And the same with, for example, when you say bye-bye to a person, you can just say bye-bye, or you can say like mata ne, or you can say genki de ne. And of course, there are still different nuances. For example, if you say sayonara, it also has a meaning in Japanese of, okay, we will maybe not see again. So you say to a friend after you met them for a long time and you will maybe not see them in the next 3 months. But if you have a close friend you know you will see sometime, you can say mata ne, or you can also say mata kondo ne. But in this way we still have a nuance. You can choose your way to say something. So pick the words you want to use for a situation. Like, don't get me wrong, like still if you talk to superiors, I would advise you to use polite forms. So some things in languages you cannot change. It would be a bit weird if you come to your superior at work and just say like yahoo or something. But there's still some words that have like the close meaning, like yo and yahoo. So yeah, that's what I mean by choosing your character. So explain what cannot be explained. So we talked about using the words you think will fit to your character in a language. But let me tell you about another thing. So every language in the world has their way of saying something. And let me tell you this with the actually first word I learned in Japanese. It's a really special word, but there's a word in Japanese that's called komorebi. And if I want to explain this word to you in one word in English, it is not possible. In German, it is not possible too. The meaning of that word is basically when you're at the forest, for example, and light shines through trees, and you can see like the glimmering and the sunbeams catching your eye. So you see, explaining this word was kind of hard. Maybe if you have a better explanation, you can write it in the comments. But you see what I mean. Like there's certain words in languages that you cannot translate that directly. For example, I don't know, I think it's a really special, how to say, example. But for example, if I want to say I'm kind of upset in German, we have a saying, and if I translate it to English, in English it becomes the saying, I think I spider. It doesn't make any sense to you, right? So there you can see that direct translation doesn't give a meaning. So that's why you cannot just take your character or your personality in one language and translate it one to one to another language. Because each language has their way of saying something. So by choosing your character, you choose the way you say something, but you have to also do it according to the language. That's why maybe people that speak different languages also feel like they kind of change personality or character a bit. And I can also give you another example. Like, beforehand, I want to say that, of course, the way you say something is personality based. But I think you can see some general, some general like tendency, how something is said in a country or a region. So, for example, Germans are pretty direct, I think, compared to Japanese. Of course, there can be really direct Japanese and really distant Germans, but for example, let me give you a situation. So I was at the onsen in Japan, and you have like those big baths of hot water where you're like naked with everyone inside and you just sit there. And for example, in Germany, we are really direct. So maybe it depends also on the connection you have to the person. So if it's a close friend, you're maybe more direct than, I don't know, with your teacher. But usually when you go to an onsen, like a hot water bath, usually it's kind of close people. So there was like a group of Japanese students and they were like talking. And all of a sudden they got like kind of silent. And one person just said, "Samui ne." And they all stood up and went outside. And depending on which country you're from, you will have a different understanding of that situation. Because for me in Germany, like, okay, you can kind of understand "Samui ne" means I'm cold. So he wants to go inside. But for most Germans, it wouldn't make sense to talk that distance or through this way of communication. You would just say, okay, let's go inside. And that is also what I meant in the beginning with just pick the way you want to say something. So maybe in Japanese, in general, things are said more in a different way or not that direct. But you can just think about your personality you want to be for that language. So, do I want to be a more direct person or do I want to be a more polite person? And not polite, a more distant person. So, yeah. So that's what I wanted to share about language learning because I think in the internet it's always seen so strict and so you have so many rules and you have to do this and this and this way. But besides, if you follow the basic rules like politeness rules, or if you don't like make up your whole new meaning for words, just pick the words you think will fit to you. So when you learn Japanese, don't just try to learn the words how they're presented to you. Try to learn what kind of variations you have for one word. And just pick the one you like. It's like a toolbox. You have like your box and you put in different tools you want to use at different situations. So that's how I think about language learning. I hope I could give you a kind of different way on how to learn a language. And of course, this doesn't just count for Japanese. You can also use it for many different languages. So, thank you for listening. Have a great day. また今度よろしくね。